Privilege of working with in their inaugural year, and they're currently all reading, the first classes at school are currently all reading my new book, 101 Things Every Girl, Young Woman of Color Should Know, because she was not afraid to do something out of the box for these girls. This is the principal of the new school, the Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women, Miss Lorna Hanley, right here. Miss Lorna Hanley. It's an all-girls school, starting off with 6th grade last year. Now they've moved to a brand new, beautiful building, downtown Baltimore in the former YWCA building, brand new building that's been totally redone for these beautiful girls. 6th and 7th grade this year. Miss Lorna Hanley is here today. Thank you, Lorna, for being here.
Thank you.
And to her right, if you watch CNN, if you watch Good Morning America, you may have seen this woman on Good Morning America or CNN. She is Dr. Melva Green. If you guys are from Baltimore, Maryland, you may have heard her on Wednesdays, Therapy Wednesdays on 92Q. Dr. Melva Green is a psychiatrist who's trained at the Johns Hopkins University, who's currently practicing and a social entrepreneur, working with girls and women of color and those who love them on a daily basis, and speaking to those points about our health and wellness, our mental health. I just want to hear somebody say, all of us got issues. Can you just say all of us got issues?
All of us have issues.
All of us have issues.
All of us.
Dr. Green is here to attest to that because her practice is growing.
Yes.
But to be quite serious, Dr. Green speaks to that. You've seen her on CNN and Good Morning America. To her far right, to her right, another amazing woman that's doing the work with the women who are affected in the lives of the women who are affected with HIV and AIDS. Every year in downtown Baltimore at the Renaissance Hotel, Why Women Cry, the conference takes place. Just last year, she had over 3,000 women attend Why Women Cry. The co-founder of the Sisters Together and Reaching program, Reverend Deborah Hickman, please, for the amazing work she's doing with women and their families on the ground daily. And to your right, our last panelist, but certainly not our least, is a woman who's doing the work daily again in Baltimore. You know, Congressman Cummings, Baltimore is his district, the Northwest area. She's in his district and she's doing the work daily. She's training your girls to be confident and poised and charismatic and speak well and be unapologetic about speaking well. She's letting your girls know that this is not a punctuation, this right here. You ever heard that before? I had told him that that's not a punctuation. Y'all gonna act slow because y'all got some degrees. That's not a punctuation. This woman single-handedly every day is teaching them etiquette. She's teaching them dancing. She's teaching them modeling. And she's currently a title-holding woman in pageantry. She's 2011's Mrs. Maryland. And she's a reoccurring pageantry winner because she believes you can do a lot through pageantry to speak to our girls getting where they need to be. We want you to know this is Adrienne Watson Carver of Studio A. Modeling. Her girls are right there. Studio A, stand up, Studio A. Studio A. And they've been here. Let me tell you how dedicated these girls. They have been here since 10 o'clock this morning.
Awesome.
On their feet, walking up to strangers saying, you've got to come and be a part of the solution with Congressman Cummings. Giving out literature, telling them be here at 1:30 and stay for both sessions. Studio A has been here all day. We want to thank you guys and the other students who've been here all day as well. We're going to jump right in because we know time is of essence. And the first question I have is for our educator. I have to ask you this. You're in a same gender school for girls. You see every day what we think we know. I need you to speak to, in your mind's eye, when you're talking about educating girls and women of color, what is your biggest challenge educating girls and women of color? Again, her school is in downtown Baltimore. We do have some diversity, but for the most part, it's African American girls. What's your biggest challenge, Lorna Hanley?
Educators. Finding
Please say that out loud.
Educators.
Okay.
Identifying quality, dedicated, like-minded educators that speak to the expectation that Congressman Cummings talked about. Educators with high expectations that can look a child in the face and regardless of what zip code they come from, believe they can make it.
Right.
That is probably the biggest challenge, finding educators. It's not the children. The children are perfect. The children come to us as they are. Parents are doing their best, but there's some work that we have to do surrounding, finding, identifying, supporting, developing educators.
That's a candid answer. Thank you, Lorna Hanley. Now, I'm going to move forward because I have a question for Reverend Hickman. You're working daily with women and girls of color, and you're pouring into them about the awareness of HIV and good health and good sense. And someone said last year, common sense is no longer common, right? And so when we're talking about educating our women about HIV and AIDS and about the effects it has, not just on you, but on the people who love you, please tell me, why is it that our numbers are rising in HIV, women of color? And why is it that we haven't seen that it is a very serious matter? What is it, Reverend Hickman?
Our numbers are rising in HIV because of the fact that it's been stated in the other panel, we don't really know ourselves. And so we go out looking for the love that we really have not had to this moment because we have not stood long enough in the mirror to really take a full assessment of ourselves. For our young girls, it is because of what is really being projected on the screen, what is being also stated in the radio, the hip-hop generation and the hip-hop move. What we hear constantly over and over is sex and drugs sell, and also being half naked is what is out there. And so we have a major problem when it comes down to drugs as well as to sex. Sex has been around since life itself started. It is not going to go away. But what is really needed is common sense at this hour to stop and assess if you have a plan, and have you actually written your plan down so that you know the roadmap to take, and do you really understand yourself as a female versus how the male understands himself. And so there's a process that we must understand. As women, we're nurturers and we're very emotional, but men, Congressman Cummings, are conquerors, and they seek to conquer, and we seek always to please. I'm sorry to say.
So you stepping on toes, Reverend Hickman?
I'm stepping on toes because it's time for us to step on toes. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to get up. Because if it's not HIV, then we're talking about gonorrhea, chlamydia, hepatitis C. We're talking about herpes. We're talking about things that impale life itself, that are cutting off our lifeline in the African American community.
Thank you, Reverend Hickman, for your candor. I'm going to keep this thing moving. Adrian Watson Carver, Dr. Melva Green, help me out with this. Do you believe that girls understand the power they have in relation to relationships and boys and even girls? Do you think they really understand the power that they have? Could you speak to that for me, Adrian Watson Carver first, and then Dr. Green? Listen up, ladies. I want to know if you think you know about this power that you have.
Well, I would have to say absolutely not. I am the youngest of 4 children. I have 3 older brothers. And I was the baby girl. I came from a household where my mother and my father lived in the home. My mother and my father, fortunately for me, coached every basketball team, were parents that were around, so I was constantly told about the power that I had. And so I've noticed, I've had my modeling etiquette in dance school for 10 years, developing this confidence in these young ladies, and I know that they don't know the power that they have. But I believe that we are the mouthpiece to educate them on the power that they have. My dad told me when I was a little girl, your mother can make me do anything she wants me to do, and she knows that. So I was talking to I can't remember what I was talking to my father about. But just as a little girl, he looked at me, he said, your mother knows how to make me do anything she wants to do. And even as an adult, I'm still learning it myself. At 41, I'm still learning it myself. My husband says to me, or I hear him say to his friends, a happy wife is a happy life. A happy wife is a happy life. And so I'm still learning, so I'm sure that they have not yet reached to the point where they can really understand the magnitude, the power that women have, not only over themselves, but over everyone that they come in contact with.
Yeah, and Dr. Green, you said something to me the other day. We teach people how to what? Could you expound on that, about our power?
We teach people how to treat us. And to answer the question, you asked if girls know their power. I want to back it up a second. Do women know their power? Because I think that's where we have to start. that inner girl has been silenced for far too long. And I do believe that no one has ever really sort of taught African American women how to take care of themselves. We talk a lot about, connecting with yourself, loving yourself, but what does that even look like? So if you can't face what you can't see. If you don't know what it is that you are looking for, you really can't find it. But there has to be a shift. There absolutely has to be a shift, a determination, a righteous indignation that Black women, first and foremost, are going to decide that they are worthy. Can I say that again? That they are worthy, that they are beautiful, that they are craftsmanship. They are beautiful. And when we can understand that ourselves as women, then we'll be able to teach our girls how to do that by example.
And I think that's a good point, because I think one of the things that we've mastered how to get the aesthetic going. We know how to get that good hair weave. Y'all gonna play slow? We know how to get that good hair weave. We know how to go get those nails and toes done. We got the corns buffed. We got the girdle on. But we haven't done the inner work. So while we're nice and polished on the outside, when you speak to us, we won't speak back to you. When we say, how you doing, we say, mind your business. Because we haven't done the inner work. And so in order for us to really speak some truth to power and understand our power, and this is the other thing, power doesn't mean you're loud. Can I say that to the young people? I wrote about it in the book. I don't know if you think all your friends are deaf or hearing impaired, but you are the loudest young people I've ever seen in my... How you doing, Keisha? Come here, girl. Nobody needs that. That's why you're laughing, because you know I'm not lying. Understanding your power helps you realize that you can speak in a whisper, and if you're saying something that's about something, people will listen. All right? This question I have, I want to hear this. How can we effectively supplement what they're not getting in school? What they're not getting in school, giving them a broader sense of self. How can we do that? Because our kids spend so much time in school, but there's still things, particularly in the African American community, that school has not been designed to give us. Now, y'all want to play slow, but some of you only learned about Harriet Tubman, and you only learned about Martin Luther King Jr. So when they were referencing up here in the previous panel about Sojourner Truth and Mary McLeod Bethune and Madam C, some of y'all didn't even know who they were, because that's not being taught on a daily basis in our school. How do we supplement that? How do we supplement that, Lorna, what we're not getting in school?
We need to look at what's being taught and address the 21st century skills that are needed. Girls need financial literacy skills. All of us do. But we can start that in middle school. Girls need to know how to speak. Girls need social entrepreneurship. These are classes. When we opened the School for Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women, we looked at some of the classes that were being offered at Garrison Forest School for Girls, Bryn Mawr. We looked at the schools, Boys Latin, Gilman, and we saw that these middle school kids were taking Latin. They were taking classes called social entrepreneurship. What is that, and why do they need it, and how come our girls aren't getting it?
Let's qualify those schools. Those are private, independent schools where they pay at least $16,000 a year to $25,000 a year to be there. And she's a public school, and she peeked into public information and saw what they were learning and said, if it's good enough for $20,000, what is good enough for free? For free. Now, what taxes? Can we say taxes? Can I get taxes? Yes.
But we have to be real about what we're teaching. It's bigger than reading, writing, and arithmetic now. Kids have to have digital literacy skills beyond Facebook, beyond tweeting. And then you want to have a conversation about competition and developing a young woman so that she can compete with those women that are graduating from those schools. You got to get real with the curriculum. You have to get real with the curriculum. So again, that's an adult issue. That's a leadership piece there. And we give it to them. We have a social entrepreneurship class at the Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women where the girls are coming to us saying they want to do this for Haiti. We had an issue in Baltimore with animal abuse. And for some reason, it blew the girls' minds. And they kept coming and they wanted to do all these ideas. They're burning up dogs. And I'm like, you're passionate about something and you need to feed this, and you need to know that you can make a life out of your passion. You can make a living out of this. And so we created a class called Social Entrepreneurship. I know Baltimore Freedom Academy is doing the same thing in terms of looking at the curriculum and saying, wait a minute, let's fill in some gaps here. But I think that's where it starts, Michelle, is that the curriculum needs to be tweaked, and you have to address what's going on in the 21st century. And it's also about taking kids out of their society, out of their comfort zone, and putting them in Israel and exposing them to something new, so that when they hit that college campus, they're not scared. It's not the first time they're around a bunch of people who don't look like them, sound like them, dress like them, and they can handle it. So it's about exposure, and I think it's also about tweaking that curriculum.
Excellent. Adrian, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say, speaking of supplementing the what's not being learned in school, I found out that you have to create your own. I have a scholarship cotillion program, a free program for high school juniors and seniors. Anybody in the Baltimore metropolitan area that wants to be a part of this program, if you participate in the program, you receive a scholarship for your participation in the program. My family and I, my friends, including you, Michelle, your husband, I have a lot of educated friends that are doing big things, and I make them come and do sessions where they're teaching my children about, and I'll call you.
She don't pay us nothing but attention, and that's all
right. That's right. You gonna come?
She pay attention. That's what she pay. And you know why?
Because I tell my friends, we all received a great education, and we were able to go out and do great things, and we're going to give back to these children that live in our community.
That's right.
We're gonna do it, and so I just wait. My time is spent for about 6 months out the year, calling all of my friends that are doing all these great things, and I ask them, can you please come and just volunteer your time to give these juniors and seniors, I need you to teach one session on entrepreneurship, on finances, understanding stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, talking about, I have another lady who comes to talk about Fannie Mae and other school loans and grants that you don't have to pay back, and how important it is to call the recruiter, even if you don't have the grades, and learn how to sell yourself and negotiate with this school to accept you, even though you're not qualified, but you're hungry and you're passionate.
That's right.
So I just feel you have to create your own programs, you have to make your own space, and don't talk about it, be about it.
Dr. Green.
I just wanted to add one thing. You mentioned Harriet Tubman. One of my favorite Harriet Tubman quotes is, I freed 1,000 slaves, but I could have freed 1,000 more had they known they were slaves.
Did you all hear that?
And given that I consider myself a freedom evangelist, freedom of mind, I think that is a really, really, really important point to bring to the table. And so to that, I would add, as a supplement, time and silence. Young children don't know how to be quiet. They don't know how to be still with themselves. Well, for that matter, a lot of adults don't know how to be still either. But certainly, when we're talking about learning, many of these children are coming from all kinds of trauma and all kinds of high intensity and all kinds of other stuff in their outside world. When they are coming into their school setting, their educational setting, it would be phenomenal if they were just given the tools and the skills to know what it means to be mindful, to be comfortable with who they are, and not have to be so wound up and caught up, because I can tell you, they're not learning, they're not processing at the rate that they could if they just knew how to be still with who they are.
And that's a great segue, because this question is for the church folk. This is for the church folk. How has the contemporary church failed or served our young girls and women, and what can be done to authentically engage them in cultivating their personal sense of spirituality? I ask that question because we know as a people it's been our spirituality that kept us from going absolutely crazy post-slavery. So how has the church failed us, and how has it served young women and girls of color? Reverend Hickman, I only ask you because you got Reverend in front of your name. And if you don't want no church questions, then you should just be Deborah Hickman.
Well, I'm going to say I'm always Deborah Hickman.
I know that's right, Reverend
Because when God calls, he's not going to say Reverend. He's not going to say doctor or any of that. He's just going to say, Debbie, it's time to come.
That's right.
And so that's the first thing that you need to learn is your name and the significance of your name.
That's right.
And the day that you were born and why it is so important, because it gives you purpose.
That's right.
And you know, the thing about the church failing, the church can never fail because we are the church. It's not the building that we confine ourselves to worship in, but it is us. And if we are failing, it is because we do not want to share ourselves. And we have not taken time to listen to the story. Brianna came up and she told the story through a question. Through a question. And what we have lost is our ability to be silent and listen at another person's plight, and then ask permission to give some recommendation or to tell our story back. We are not telling the story on a continuum, and yet we were instructed that we should always tell the story, and that way we will not continually fall into that deep, dark hole. We have apathy, yes, in our congregations because we are pained people, and we understand that the church is a hospital for the sick. But when you go to the hospital, no two doctors, no one doctor prescribes the same prescription to every person, because every person has a different diagnosis.
That's right.
And every person has a different length of time that it will take them to heal. So what we need is to be able to instill and utilize positive virtues at all times, no matter what. You might be feeling like, I want to take this person and strangle them. But take your strangle and strangle your words and your actions and your body language and do something different. Reach out and touch a person where they have not been touched yet and hold on to them. Go back and check in and make certain. We need more intergenerational approaches. We need more intergenerational approaches where we get back to the kitchen table, and whether we are frying the hair, we're dyeing the hair, or we are sewing in the hair. However, we need to be able to sit together, and we need to be able to start showing our young girls how to make those biscuits while we're telling the story, while we're telling them about when we first took the position, while we're telling our young people when we first had our first sexually transmitted disease and were shamed. We need to be able to tell when we first got our broken heart and stop acting as if God put us here just like we are.
I say selective amnesia. I say we get selective amnesia. And I say that doesn't serve anybody, least of all the young people who are looking to us for guidance. But I also want to ask this question. This is a question that I really feel strongly about, and I wanted to share it with this panel. Do you believe that the mother-daughter relationship creates a template for a girl or a woman's success or challenges in life as it relates to education phase? So in other words, how important is the mother-daughter relationship? And if not the mother-daughter, let's say the mother figure and the daughter relationship, because it's not always your biological who ends up mothering you. How important is that relationship to a success of a girl? How important is it?
I certainly won't say that you can't overcome it if you don't have it. But for me, it's everything. It was everything to me. My mother is the greatest woman I've met because of what she deposited in me. It was my mother that told me I could be anything. It was my mother. I remember at like 3 years old, my mother sitting me on her lap at 3. You can do anything. Nobody in the world is more important than you. Nobody's better than you. You are just as good as anyone else. And when the world rejected me, and in many instances I was rejected because I was confident, or rejected because I wasn't good at this, or rejected because I was skinny, I knew that if I made it home, it was all right. Because at my house, I was a superstar in my house, you know. So I believe that my mother's love is almost, my father is responsible for my ability to compete and wanting to be the best. But my mother is almost single-handedly responsible for me feeling like I was a champion and I had the ability to fly. So I think that, of course, I know it can be overcome if you don't have it, but I think if you are blessed to have that, it can make all the difference in the world. So I try to do the same thing with my child and with all of my mentees.
Thank you, Adrienne. Anybody else want to chime in about the mother-daughter?
I want to say that mother-daughter relationship is critical. I think that, you know, in my relationship, especially with my youngest daughter, she says, "Ma, there's a skinny woman in you screaming to come out." and I just love her for the challenge because of the simple fact that I love my daughters. I love showing them and telling them about who I was when I was their age. And I love the fact that they love me despite my faults and my failures to bring their girlfriends to the house who could not talk with their mothers. It is very, very critical. But I do have to say that there is a special relationship with a father and a daughter.
For sure. And we were going to address that. That's serendipitous. We were going to address that, Reverend Hickman. Lorna, what were you going to say about the mother-daughter relationship?
I think I'm thinking about the mothers who are looking to other women to help them raise their daughters. My mom from Jamaica, no education. She just knew she needed to get her daughter to college. So she depended on other women to talk about college. I had to watch The Cosby Show. I had to watch The Real World. That was her connecting me to college. Upward Bound, college. And so whenever she could put her hands on someone with a degree, she put them in my face. And I'm talking to the women out there who are serving as mentors and teachers and educators. When you come into the faith, when you face someone who is leaning on you to talk about that, don't shun them away. Don't judge them. They need you. And it may not be to mother their children, but that's just a piece that you need to bring to the table. I love those mothers that come into the schoolhouse and just looking for resources. Looking for resources. That's why I'm there. And so there's some mothers out there that it is critical, but they want more, and it's not necessarily that they don't know how to ask. It's about them knowing where to get the resources, if I'm making sense. So,
Dr. Green? Thank you, Lorna. I'm sorry. You can finish your thought, Lorna.
No.
Okay. Dr. Green?
Well, these three lovely ladies have these beautiful and amazing relationships with their mothers and daughters. So I'm going to speak to the other side of that because I am a psychiatrist, and I do help people unfold their deepest pains. And I can tell you that mother-daughter relationship can teach you how you want to be, and it can also teach you how you don't want to be. And it is really important that even if that relationship is not one that was nurturing, that was not one that was good, to be able to unfold all of that dirty laundry, because I guarantee you, if you don't unfold it, you'll find yourself down the line piled all up under it. And that is actually how oftentimes people choose their mates. They choose their mates not based on what they loved about that caregiver. They choose what they couldn't stand about that caregiver. So I tell people, if you don't explore the role in your drama, the saga will continue. I can guarantee you that. So if you have a challenging relationship with your mother, it's important to be open about that, to be honest about that. There is nothing to be ashamed of. Find someone who is not judgmental, but can help you unfold that dirty laundry.
Well, you know, you bring up an interesting point. Nobody ever wants to talk about that stuff. Nobody ever wants to deal with the reality that sometimes your grandmother is 32 years old. Nobody wants to have that conversation that sometimes your mother's 15, her mother's 35, your great-grandmother is 50. And so the reality becomes, how much can I give you? Because I can only give you what I've gotten, okay? So I wanted you to deal with that. Now, on another note, how important is it, and I need for you to answer this, Dr. Green, how important is it for us to know the mental health status of our families, girls, women? How important is that? Because how many of y'all got that one relative, you don't know what his issue is, but you know something ain't right. Something ain't right. Something is wrong with Uncle Harry. How come Uncle Harry don't get to come to the dinner table at Thanksgiving? How come we take his plate upstairs? What is going on with Uncle Harry that he can't be amongst the rest? Y'all don't want to be real today because it's Congressional Black Caucus and we've had dignitaries. But the issue becomes, how come we're not talking about mental health? How come we're not talking about bipolar disorder and schizophrenia? How come we're not talking about that fierce auntie that's beautiful, but she will jump into another person and you talking to somebody else and you was just talking to her 5 minutes ago? It's just my family. Look, listen, I ain't ashamed of it because it set me free. I found out what our disorders was. I'm looking for them in all my children because I'm going to get some help before it take place. Thank you for raising your hand, because that's what we don't talk about in these black communities with these girls, women of color. You walking around with schizoaffective disorder. You walking around with mental health, all kinds of stuff jumping on, and they just say, girl, you know she ain't right. And we never find out and get to the bottom of it. Dr. Green, how important is it? Don't be laughing, Auntie, because you're thinking about your uncle who y'all ain't let come to Thanksgiving. Matter of fact, he would come down there and shut the whole dinner down, wouldn't he? Come down there and cut the food, wouldn't he? And tell the truth, all y'all ain't about nothing. You live with your mother. That ain't your husband. Y'all got 18 babies. I know your mother's father. You know that ain't your real daddy. You kept him in the basement. Dr. Green, as a psychiatrist, please tell us, why is that important for us to understand this mental health history of our families?
It's absolutely important to understand your health history, period. But certainly your mental health history, because that's something that creeps in and without any physical signs. So without the history, you just don't know. And unfortunately, a lot of people just don't know their history. It wasn't given a proper diagnosis. If it involved some sort of psychotic symptoms, or they heard voices, or they saw things, then everybody that was black had schizophrenia back in the 1970s. So many people don't actually know, or they had someone who was put away or institutionalized for a long time, or had somebody who died suddenly, young, by suicide, but they never ever talk about it. The issue is we're just afraid of what we don't understand. And when it comes to mental health, we just don't understand it. I can give you a personal story. My mother's brother has bipolar disorder. I was a grown woman in medical school, and I did not know. I just thought he drank a little too much and got loud, and but he was a brilliant man. And I came home from school, and on his bookshelf he had a book called The Social Transformation of Medicine by Paul Starr. I hadn't read that book until I was in graduate school. I said, when did you read that? He was like, I read that years ago. This man can quote the Torah, the Quran, the Bible. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But I didn't know. My family, fortunately, was not a judgmental bunch and embraced him and provided him with all of the things, but we never talked about it. And that's actually the reason I went into psychiatry. And I'll tell you, when I decided to pursue a career in psychiatry, people looked at me like as if I said it was joining the circus. They were like, why would you do that? Don't you want to be a real doctor? You paid real doctor tuition when you went to medical school, absolutely.
Didn't you? You got real loans if you weren't real. Knowing you got all your stuff paid for. 'Cause she was Doogie Howser, but that's another story.
But the reality is, especially amongst the African American community, even within our medical training institutions, they discouraged it. They absolutely discouraged it. So off I went. I said, okay, well, I like adolescents. I'll do adolescent medicine. I went off and did my first year. 6 months into it, I was miserable because I was more concerned not about this mother bringing this baby back for the third time with the same ear infection for the antibiotic, but because she was not connecting with this baby. There was something absent in her eyes. And I said, absolutely, I'm done. I'm out of here. And off I went to pursue what was truly my divine calling in this life. But the reality is we have to talk about it. We have to talk about it. We've got to get over this issue of, well, we don't need to talk about it. If we don't talk about it, it's not real. The more we don't talk about it, the more real it is. And everything we see is mental.
Thank you so much, Dr. Green. Now before we close this up, because we've had so much fun talking, just personally for me, not even just mental health, but we should also know our medical health in our family. You should know who died from cancer and who had lupus and we have Down syndrome on my grandmother's side, way down the line, and they never told me it was Down syndrome. They just said, she got Witchcom, and Witchcom. It's not in the DSM-4. It's not in any medical. It's just Witchcom, and Witchcom wasn't gonna help me. What if I had Witchcom and didn't know I had Witchcom? I can't go say, give me some medicine for Witchcom. And so again, you've got to know your medical history, girls and women of color, so that when you have your babies and maybe one comes out born with Down syndrome, you know what Witchcom was in my family? It was Down syndrome. My cousin had Down syndrome. And they thought she was just the funniest thing because she would just cut up and eat, and she was just frisky, and they just thought it was cute. I wanted to know what was wrong with her. So these things are real. We need to understand these things. Now, as we wrap up, we want to get some questions from you guys. I have a question. Do you believe that girls, every girl that's born, that will become a woman today, do you believe that she's destined to do something? Do you believe that she's destined to do something? Please help me answer that question, because there's a lot of young people and older people who believe that they just supposed to get a good government job, and I ain't mad at you. I like direct deposit. Say hallelujah for direct deposit. I love benefits. Blue Cross Blue Shield ain't never hurt nobody. I love it. But that's not everybody's story. And so I need to know, do you believe that every girl and young woman of color is destined to do something? And qualify that for me. And if you have questions, make your way to the stand so we can get your question before we wrap up. Do you believe that? Do you believe that?
Yes, I do believe that, and I believe it through Jeremiah 29:11. For
Preach.
I know the plans I have for you.
Go ahead.
Plans of good and not of evil.
Come on.
To bring you to great expectations. See, God doesn't leave us. He didn't create us in his image to be nothing and nobody. But he created us to be somebody great.
Oh.
Everyone in here, from the youngest to the oldest, is born
That's
with
right.
a purpose.
That's
All of us have purpose. And my purpose is not her purpose, and her purpose is not my purpose.
That's right.
But we all fit jointly together in the body.
That's
we
right.
need to stop being copycats and find our own.
That's right.
And do what we are assigned to do. And that way we won't become crabs in a barrel, pulling each other down or having envy, strife, and gossip all around us and about us. But we need to be about me before I can get with you, so that we can continue to build
Sister
the kingdom
Tracy.
together.
Sister Tracy, please come up. I'm sorry, Reverend Hickman. I wanted to make sure we got this sister up here before she leaves.
And Michelle, not only do I believe it, I proclaim it. I declare out of my mouth that it is so.
Well, before we go to the questions, in the beginning of my book, 101 Things Every Girl and Young Woman of Color Should Know, there's a piece written that's almost like a marching order piece. And the writer of that piece saw it, she saw fit to be here. She has a sick daughter at home. She's a wife and a mother, and she's a beautiful, beautiful poet and author. And she still made her way here to pour back into you. I want you to hear the piece that she wrote for me for my book. And it's just for you. Please welcome, before we go to question, Sister Tracy Ward. Please give her a good hand, y'all. Come on.
First of all, I want to say that I'm so honored to be here today. I thought I was coming here just to be able to participate with Michelle, which was an honor. But the entire conversation that my sister and I had driving over here, because I wanted to be able to get back home in case Sabir, got worse, it was almost as if your panelists were eavesdropping in our car. And this is moving for us, like as adults, because most people, we don't talk about the girls that still live inside of us broken adults. So this is powerful. So I'm gonna do the piece that I wrote in the book, but I just wanted to share just a little piece of something that last year just was like riding around as I drove, doing everything to get away from being me. It was this snippet of a piece, and then I'll go into the other piece, because that's like my affirmation for myself. You see, I'm broken into more than just a million pieces, trying to find more than just a million reasons to make peace with my past. A past that keeps fast-forwarding itself into my future, forcing me to face yesterday's pain, yesterday's shame, and yesterday's heartbreak. I said I'm broken. And as that piece kept riding inside of my mind, it made me think about my family who last year in 2009 traveled all the way from Jacksonville, Florida to watch me graduate. See, I was a teenage mom like your mama. So I prolonged everything, school and everything, because I wanted to be a mom to my children. I didn't want to pawn them off on my grandmother because she was willing to do that. But I wanted to feel what it felt like to be a mama. So you know how we do. We negate our own passions and our own desires. And not that it's a bad thing, but it's unrealistic. Because then we start putting our dreams and desires in our children and start making them do things and become people that they don't desire to be. So I decided to start feeding my own spirit. 2009, my family who traveled up here to watch me graduate were tragically killed in a car accident driving back to Jacksonville, Florida. And it just changed my life like almost instantly. And I realized in that moment that I was only merely existing in this fragile thing called life. So I had to constantly create this affirmation so that I could be reminded that as great as other people see me, shamefully I didn't see that same greatness. So I created this piece that Michelle allowed me to share in her book, and I'm just really honored that she even asked me. So, see, I know sometimes it's hard to believe, but believe me, you are powerful. And it has nothing to do with your being perfect, but the fact that you've been created by perfection. You see, God made no mistakes when he made you. And your flaws are what makes you uniquely you. You're beautiful. In spite of your imperfections, just keep keeping God at the center and he'll make all the corrections. Trust me, your burdens will soon become your blessings. And those trials you keep going through, child, God's gonna bless you with some amazing lessons. You just have to be patient enough to listen. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Is that all right? Y'all gonna have to give her some love. Is that all right?
Yes.
Please, we want to take the first question. Thank you so much, Sister Tracy, for sharing a piece of your heart with us, and we are so proud that you graduated from Coppin State University last 2009. And the eagle still rises. What's your question, beautiful?
Hi, everybody. My name is Daisha Ali. I'm a student. I live in Frederick County, and I kind of have 2 points. One transitions into the other. So I kind of like go to a predominantly white school. I'm the only black female.
We can kind of like tell that, just like a little bit. Like I kind of have like one question, but like it's gonna go to like another question. That's gonna go like another, and I may never get finished. Oh my God!
No, it'll finish.
I'm just joking. You go ahead, you beautiful girl.
Thank you.
Please pray for me. Please.
And it's kind of saying like the poverty and stuff. I like the other side's forgotten. Like, what about the like children in the all white? Like, how like do we like deal with that?
That's excellent.
And saying like I see other black students, or it'll be like other black guys, and they'll just walk by like I'm not nothing. Like I don't feel beautiful. I'm alienated, and I'm just like walk past. If I'm not light skinned or mixed or have long like hair flowing down, I don't feel beautiful. So why is that black women are not seen beautiful?
That is an awesome question. I know Elijah, Congressman Cummings, you're just sitting, but she said something powerful. She's at a predominantly white school, and if you're not looking like you could be from somewhere else, the black boys are walking right past you, and it's causing you to feel, Dr. Green, you should weigh in too, to feel that you're not beautiful.
Yeah.
Somebody speak to that on this panel. Thank you for being so transparent. Yeah. We appreciate your transparency, because you're about to set some other girls free. And they're not even at all white schools. They at schools and the people look like them, and you speaking to them. Please answer that.
Well, this is perfect, and thank you so much. Michelle knows. I know Michelle is clapping on the inside, because that is always my issue. Oftentimes, when young women who've been traumatized, they've been raped, they've been molested, they've had some real pain, they get a lot of attention. But young women who are getting pain is pain, regardless of where it's coming from, whether it's one time or repeatedly. And I just want to honor you. I want to honor you. First for recognizing this. That is powerful. This child already knows what it takes a whole lot of other people like 40, 50 years to figure it out. Congratulations.
That's right.
I honor you for recognizing it. I honor you for speaking it out loud. and it has no power over you.
That's right.
It has absolutely no power over you.
That's right.
You get to decide. Can you hear me? You get to decide for you what beauty is.
That's right.
And let nobody tell you anything different.
Thank you so much, Congressman.
Yeah, let me just say this from a man's standpoint. You are beautiful. Come here. No. Come on, hang on in there. You are, I was just looking at you, and you are the complexion of my wife and my 2 daughters. And, you know, and I think sometimes maybe you need to go into some other environments. Maybe, in a black church, maybe. Amen. You know, I'm very serious about that. That may not be the environment that you can get the affirmation. But let me just tell you something that I will tell this real quick story. My oldest daughter, when she was a little kid, she went to school one day, and she came back and she said, "Daddy, I had a tough day." And she couldn't have been more than about, say, 8. And I said, "Well, what do you mean you had a tough day? You're only 8 years old." She said, "This little boy came up to me, Daddy, and he told me that I was ugly." So as a father, I got kind of, I said, "What's his name?" And she said, Daddy, she was, I know exactly when she was 6 years old. She said, "Daddy, I handled it." I said, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "I reached in my pocketbook." I said, "Uh-oh." Because back then she used to carry rocks in her pocketbook. It's a true story. And she said, so I said, "What'd you do? Did you hit him?" And she said, "No, Daddy." She said, "I put my hand on my hip." And she said, "I told him," she said, "every morning that I wake up, there's a big life-size poster of the day I was born, and my father is holding me in one hand. And he's saying to me, 'You are the most beautiful and most awesome human being that ever came upon the earth.'" And she said, and you know what? I had the nerve to believe it, because every day he told me that over and over and over again. And then she said, then I started telling myself that. Hello. And she said, "You can call me anything you want. You can." She said, "But let me tell you something. If you don't believe I'm bad, if you don't believe I'm beautiful, if you don't believe I'm smart, you call my daddy at 366-0494, and he'll back me up." But as I said a little bit, I don't know whether you were in the room a little bit earlier when I was talking about the Westmore book. It is our expectations of ourselves. And these ladies, all of the panelists, have talked about, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, "You are beautiful. You are awesome." And I'm telling you, don't let nobody fool you. God, don't let anybody define you. Because when people begin to define you, they control you. Don't let them define you. Girlfriend, define yourself. Because you are a beautiful, beautiful young lady.
We might need you again. Thank you so much for that. We thank you for your transparency, and I hope that everybody in here felt that and walked away with something. What's your next question?
Hi, I'm Ashley Smith. I'm from Frederick. I have a question for all of you guys. How do you believe in yourself when someone puts you down and you believe them, and when you believe things, you accept it and then you become it? How do you not go down that road?
That's a great question, Ashley. Anybody can chime in on that.
I'm kind of going to say some of the things that have already been said earlier. Definitely try to find a mentor or someone in your school or in your church. It doesn't have to be your mom. It doesn't have to be a relative. Someone that you can connect with and talk to. And then I also want to say the same thing that the congressman just said. Your words become your thoughts. And your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. And I talk with my young people all the time about getting that mind under subjection. And just, you got to feed yourself with positive thoughts. So for every negative thing that you hear, you've really got to train yourself to go find something positive to hear. So if it's reading, if it's talking to a friend, if it's trying to connect with a mentor, but I mean, you really have to try to get yourself in a place where you're going to hear people speaking life into you and speaking positive thoughts into you. And it is not an easy process.
And then sometimes, Ashley, when you can't find the people, there's some folks in this old book called the Bible, and he says sometimes you got to encourage yourself. Sometimes you don't even need a cheerleader. Sometimes you got to encourage yourself. I was that girl who thought she had the biggest forehead and the biggest nose in the universe. And as soon as I was going to get me enough money, I was going to get rhinoplasty, and somebody was going to mush my forehead in. And it took for me to realize that I was already the same cutie pie you see right now. That was already me. And I can say that because I've been delivered. That was already me all that time. So you don't even have to wait for the cheerleaders. Become your own personal cheerleader. Not to the point where you think more than yourself than you ought to, but just enough to get you where you're destined to be. Does that make sense, Ashley? Thank you for your transparency,
Michelle,
Ashley. Lorna.
I just want to say something to the girls here. Turn the TV off.
Yes, ma'am.
Here, Nicki Minaj is a lie. More girls look like that chocolate thing right there and that chocolate thing right there with that beautiful short haircut that's cute. More girls look like that than look like Nicki Minaj. It's a lie. It's a lie. The music you're listening to, the stuff that you keep feeding yourself, that's why you girls, some of us are walking around thinking we need to look this way. When you hear someone calling herself a Barbie and all, it's a lie. And if we're true, if she was to sit down, she's dealing with some of the same things these girls from Frederick are dealing with, which is why she's calling herself Barbie. I'm telling you, please, turn the TV off, turn the radio off. Get away from the computer, read your books, develop what's going on, develop the character.
That's right.
And leave these cosmetics alone. Look at Nicki Minaj and take off that hair, remove that fake butt, remove the makeup.
Tell the
Seriously,
truth.
I'm very serious.
Tell the truth.
She looks just like you. Google her and see what she used to look like before she hooked up with Lil Wayne. Google her. She's very smart. She's a businesswoman. But don't think that's not who you're supposed to look like. That's not the competition. Get her out your head. Get her out your head and be the best, beautiful you that you can be.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Ashley, you can go to your seat as they answer one more. Thank you, Ashley.
Ashley, I want to say that, and for all of us in here, if you don't journal, start journaling.
That's right.
So that when he or she tells you that you're not this, that you're this, you go home and write down, so-and-so said today that I was this. But your next statement is, but I see myself this way, and I have these values, and this is who I am going to be. And you write that statement, that positive statement, you write it as often as you have to for that day until you find yourself peaceful within. Go take a refreshing walk and sing to yourself.
That's
and
right.
Feel a hug come all over you and let your tears flow. Don't encapsulate them, but let them flow so that you can have a river of peace that will always follow you, and you will be able to look back and say, okay, well, this one said this, but now I got 1,000 attributes about myself that I am going to form into something else. And it's going to be a positive me, and I'm not going to look like anybody else, sound like anybody else. I am going to be me.
Thank you, Reverend Hickman, so much.
I don't have a question. I just want to say that television is TV, tells lies to the vision. And some of you girls, I challenge all of you that are around my age or older than these girls.
What's that, 25?
25.
I know that's right.
We have to be mentors when they're walking in front of your car, when you see them on the sidewalk. The eyes of a young girl will always tell you the story. So I want to first applaud the panel and Congressman Cummings, East Baltimore Development, and say that we really do have to be the change.
That's right.
So if I want this young girl to be like me, imagine being 80 pounds, 6'1" in high school. I had to go to the prom with my cousin.
I know that's right.
You know, so I'm saying that I challenge everyone in this room, whether you're walking, have driver's license, or on the bus, we have to mentor them so that they can become exactly who they were born to become.
Thank you
so if
so
there is
much.
anything that I can do to help those of you that are local, I would love to come in and talk to your
Thank
kids.
you so
that's-
much. Thank you so much. Dr. Green, and you can come on up to the microphone, sweetie. Dr. Green.
I just wanted to add this based on Ashley and the young lady before her being so powerfully transparent. There is power in speaking those words out and just being done with them. Because, you know, what we resist persists. It will come back to get you. It will come back to get you. It will define how you interact in your life financially, relationally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way. And what I would add to the journaling process is begin discovering your own spiritual self. Begin discovering your own spiritual self. A lot of older black women, they do really, really good religion, but they're not very spiritually enlightened. Sorry, Rev. You know, and this I know. Or that they're highly educated, but they lack a lot of emotional intelligence. You can start this journey on your own. You can just talk, okay, God, here I am. I don't know anything about this. But start your own process, and over time, you will experience that peace. You will experience an understanding that what nobody else says about you can really stick. It can't stick because
That's right.
you know better.
Thank you, Dr. Green. We're going to have to wrap up. The last three young ladies, we want to hear from you. Could you please come to the microphone and share your question with us? You, beautiful girl with the pearls.
Okay. My name is Delaney Alexis Coley. I'm 12 years old in the 8th grade. And to start off, I'm very successful, if I do say so myself.
Say so. Say so. It is so. We don't even know what you did. We just clapping. You could be successful at slapping people in the face. What are you successful at? We better hold the applause till we hear what she said. What are you successful
I dance, I model, I can speak 2 different languages.
That's right.
I'm active in the church.
That's right.
I get A's and B's.
There you
I
go.
can go on and on.
And I like that about you. She said, I can go on. This ain't nothing. That's a skill. That's a skill set. Promote yourself.
But my question is, if right is right, why is it so wrong to be right?
That is a great question. That's a very philosophical question coming from a 12-year-old. What is your last book you've read? Could you share that with me?
Your book.
You read my book?
Yes.
God bless you. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
101 Things Every Girl and Young Woman of Color Should Know. www.saveourgirls.com. If right is right, why does it feel so wrong to be right? That sounds like a song. Congressman, if loving you is wrong, I want to be right. Well, why is it so difficult to be right?
Well, one of the things I say, sometimes when you're going places, everybody's not going to go with you. And just to speak about your unique greatness and your destiny, you're doing big things and doing great things, and unfortunately, everybody's not going to always be excited about it. So sometimes when people are saying that what you're doing isn't right, it's to deter you, or to block you, or to bring you down. And sometimes envy comes in that way. Or sometimes jealousy comes in that way. But then also, to whom much is given, I believe to whom much is given, much is required. So the journey isn't going to be easy all the time. And I believe that's what Doc was saying. If you are speaking those positive thoughts in your mind over time, it gets easier, and over time, it'll get better. And you are fabulous. I just want you to know.
Is that because she goes to Studio A? So, you should go, to Frederick, and, all that stuff you're doing for them, go to Frederick and, do it there, and, maybe something will happen. I don't know. I could go on and on. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Hi, my name is Kayla Dabney. I wanted to know how you guys figured out that this is what you wanted to do?
It's a great question. How'd you figure it out that this is what you wanted to do? My advisor told me, can I just say that to you? I was going into my last year of my PhD. My advisor came to a comedy show one night, unbeknownst to me, meaning not knowing. I'm sure you know that because you look real smart. But she came to the show, and she called me in her office the next day, and I thought I was in trouble for not turning in something. Now, this is the going into the last year of a PhD program. This is when I'm on the home stretch. And she says, you're going to be very angry if you do not pursue your stand-up comedy full-time because you have a gift. And she said, this is unconventional because I'm supposed to push you through here so you can be one of the good numbers that we have. We can check off 2 boxes for you, African-American and female, if I get you through this program. But I want to speak to your destiny and not just what they say you ought to be. And so I was encouraged by my advisor to pursue my stand-up comedy career. That was 12 years ago. Since then, I've gotten married. I've had 3 children. I've performed on a number of stations. But more than that, I get a chance to live my dream. So somebody else, one other person, share how you knew that you were doing what you were supposed to do. Now, we know it's because of your crazy uncle, Dr. Green. But you could, not crazy, but God bless him, bipolar disorder. They used to call it manic depression. You know, they upgrade the disorders every year. Pretty soon it's going to be regular. It's just going to be called regular. Everybody got it. It's just regular. She got irregular, you got regular, we got which calm. You know, it's going to be all right. Dr. Green, how'd you know this was what you wanted to do?
You know, I actually didn't know. I actually didn't know that this is what it would be called. I knew that I was called to heal. I knew that I had that special calling on my life. And what I did was just put one foot out, and then the other, and then the other, and then the other. And I was obedient. I was obedient. And here's where I landed. So that's, I mean, you're going to have some yearnings and some knowings, but you don't actually have to see it all exactly the way that it is. Enjoy the process.
Trust the
enjoy
process.
the experience. Enjoy the ride.
Now, here's the interesting part, too. You may be, and I talk about this all the time, the first person to ever do what you are destined to do. The first one. Be unapologetic. Mean, don't make excuses. Don't be sad because you're the first one. You might be the woman who make fried chicken for astronauts. You know what I'm saying? Instead of eating it out the tube, they may be able to take a whole chicken breast because of you, fried and preserved. You may be the fried chicken astronaut lady. We don't know. I'm sure you're not the fried chicken astronaut lady. But that's how absolutely obtuse it could be. It could be something that hasn't even, we wouldn't be sitting down if somebody ain't get tired of standing up. I need to sit down. I'm going to make something. Put some sticks in a piece of wood. What we going to call it? Chair. So you may be the very first, okay? Just be bold enough, like Dr. Green, to go for it. Thank you for asking the question. We appreciate you. Our last question of today.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Mariah Perkins, and I'm a freshman at Laurel High School. I ended middle school with a 4.0 GPA.
Y'all better stand on your feet and clap for that 4.0. If this was a Redskins game, you would be on your feet. That's a scholar right there. That's excellence. I can't get no help. Some of y'all still sitting down. That's a 4.0.
You all say how you just knew what you were supposed to do, but how and when do you find it out, what you're actually born to do in life?
You asking for dates and times?
Not specifically, but like when in your life was a turning point that you found out what you were really put on this earth to do?
That's a great question. You heard mine. Anybody else with a turning point, tipping point, if you will?
So many points. And the truth is that many of us have, Michelle sings. She didn't talk about that yet. Michelle acts. She writes books. She's a comedian. She's a host. There are like 10 different gifts in this one woman right here. So you keep developing yourself and you keep trying new things and you don't stop. Never get comfortable because you don't ever want to leave this earth without getting every single thing God has for you. Get it all. Get it all. So try new things, meet new people, go to new places, and you're going to find out there's so much stuff in you don't even know that you got in you yet.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. That was excellent. Well, I just want to, first of all, turn the microphone back over to the Congressman, but I want to take a moment to thank you for staying. Clap for yourselves. Did you get a lot out of Our Girls, Our Promise today, being a part of the solution? I want to thank you all for sticking around, and I want to thank one of my mentor's wives. This is one of my mentor's wives. I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, but her husband has been one of my mentors who's always pushed me to explore my artistic abilities. I want to thank Dr. Lorraine Cole for staying, of the YWCA, for staying for both sessions. Her husband, Vincent Stovall, has been my artistic mentor since I was 18 years old. So she's been loaning her husband to me for 12 years. Ain't that beautiful? Y'all so slow. I love slow folk. And I want to thank Janice Farabee for staying for both sessions. Got it going on. Global girls doing major work at the National Council of Negro Women. I also want to thank the Urban Leadership Institute, my husband, who's the president of the Urban Leadership Institute, for being a partner and a sponsor today. United Health Group and the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and the Center for the Prevention of Youth Violence. I got to thank you all. Please make sure you take your walkaways. Now, Congressman Cummings is going to come back to close us out. Look at all these partners on here. These are people who are doing the work daily in the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, wherever they are. Please look them up. Baltimore, D.C., all over the country, and make sure you get in touch with them to be a part of your solution. Please, we're going to bring up Congressman Cummings to close us out. Thank you so much for staying. I'm Michelle, the indie mom of comedy. Thanks again for letting me be with you this afternoon.
Give Michelle and our panelists a great hand. Thank you. You did a great job. Great job. Great. Lord help. This has been such a wonderful session. I cried and laughed and did a little bit of everything. But I want to, this is sometimes you can be in an environment where my mother and father are preachers, but my mother used to always say, that is the things in a service that are unplanned that usually have the most meaning. And there's so much that has happened in this that was unplanned. We couldn't have planned it better, but there was somebody else planning above our planning. And so I'm just so glad that we had this opportunity. I'm glad that we had the folks from Paris. Didn't know that was going to happen. They had to leave. But I'm so glad that we had the young ladies who talked about their pain and what they're going through. And there were so many critical issues that were brought up. And I want to thank Michelle, because she doesn't tell the story, the whole story, and the whole truth about this. But she and her husband, we could not have done this without them. And she really, not only was she up here, but she helped us plan it and make it happen. And I want to thank both of you for making it. And then what they did, they brought all their friends. And so we really do appreciate that. And to Trudy Perkins, who is right there. Trudy is my deputy chief of staff and a very, very special, special lady. Let me just say this, and I promise you, I'm not only going to take about a minute and a half. But as I listen to all of this, a lot of this goes to self-esteem. I took a lot of notes, and one of the things that Malak Compton Rock said, and she was talking about getting along with her husband. She said these words. She said, the reason why they get along so well is that he respects that, the things that, it says that is what, I just had to read my own writing. She said, he understands that there are certain things that feed her soul. Oh, that's heavy. And several questions have come up here about one of our last questioners, how do I know? How did you decide what you wanted to do? I believe that there is a voice that talks to us and tells us who we are and where we need to be going. And one of our panelists has set it up here. Sometimes we need to be quiet and listen, and we will get there. But again, mentorship is so very, very important. And mentorship is important for a number of reasons. One, a mentor helps you avoid ditches that you might fall into. Mentors provide you with guidance. Mentors can introduce to you in 1 week the people that it would have taken you 5 years to meet, if ever, and can do so many wonderful things. And so I urge all of us to get involved in the mentoring process and to, what's your mother's name? I would have never guessed that she was your mother. She is, and I thank you so much for giving birth to this awesome woman. I really do. Give her a hand, that's all right. And so I leave you with this last little thing. Michelle kept saying something that was so interesting. She kept talking about, remember you said trust the process. And I'll leave you with this one little last daddy-daughter story. My oldest daughter, again, she came home one day, she was on the track team. And this is the first day she's on the track team now. First day. She said, Daddy, I joined the track team today. I said, oh, that's wonderful, girl. She said, and Daddy, I quit the track team today. I said, oh. And she was about 12 years old, 13 years old. I said, well, why you do that? She said, because there's 12 girls on the team, and all of them run faster than I do, and I'm embarrassed. I don't like looking like a loser. And I said to her, I said, do me one favor. I said, get in the car. We went down to the sporting goods store, and we got a stopwatch. And she said, why you mind me a stopwatch? I'm off the team. I said, I want you to do me one favor. I just want you to stay on the team for 1 week. But I want you to do this. I said, I don't want you to pay attention to all the other girls. I don't want you trying to compare yourself to them because they got their talents, you got yours. I said, but I want you to run faster on Thursday than you did on Wednesday. And faster on Friday than you did on Thursday. And I said, just do that for a week. That's all I want, just 1 week. So she apparently did what I said, so after a week, I ain't hear from girlfriend. 2 weeks, I ain't hear from girlfriend. She said, no, and I wasn't gonna say anything myself, of course. And after the 3rd week, she said, Daddy, I forgot to tell you, you know my track meet is tomorrow. I said, I thought you quit. She said, no, she said, I went out there and I did what you told me to do. And she said, I need you to come. Oh, God. She said, I need you to come. I need you to come, Daddy, because I'm now running faster than 11 of the 12 girls. But listen to what she said. But I figure if you show up, I should beat the other one, too. And sure enough, she ran and she came in first. But after that, I asked, and she tells this story all the time. I asked her, I said, baby, I said, you know, what is it? I mean, how'd you manage that? She said, Daddy, you got to understand that you used to always say that it's about the process. It's not about, I realized that it wasn't about whether I won or lose. And then I look back on it, me staying on the team taught me team spirit, taught me how to win and lose, taught me how to get along with other people. A lot of times, young ladies, we think we're so caught up in the end that we don't appreciate the journey, the process. And that's what these ladies have been talking about. It is the process. It is going through something, and you don't know what you know until you're around somebody who don't know what you know. No, I'm serious about that. That's why they say have experiences. Somebody just said it. You got to have as many experiences as you can come by, because just coming here today, how many, I mean, you young ladies, I bet you that most of the young ladies that you've ever been around have never been to one of these functions. Now you can go back and stick your chest out and say, I met this person, and I met these wonderful women, and so now you are in another, you've learned things and you've moved further. Why? Because of the process. And so we thank you so much for all that you are. And we, you know, when I was just, I mean, it's been so emotional for me because I'm looking out here, and I gotta say this as I close. Young ladies, I gotta tell you this. You have something that I wish I could buy. You have something, if I could buy it, I'd give everything but my wife and kids. You know what that is? At 59 years old, I have now lived longer than I will live. But your life is in front of you. If I could buy just 10 years, if I could just buy them, I give you everything I got. Because your life is in front of you. And I beg you, I would ask you, but asking is too cheap. Look yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself. If you can't find nobody else to talk to yourself. Say, girl, you bad. I mean, you just talk to yourself. You just get up and say, I look so good today, and I just can't stand myself. I mean, you need to do that over and over, and then that's what these ladies are talking about. You ask, how did they get to where they got to? They had a vision, and then they went about carrying out that vision, turning it into a mission, and now they're here today. Last but not least, do not mistake a comma for a period. Do not mistake a comma for a period. I'm tired of our young women and young men. They graduate from high school and then they say, got it going on, girl. No. Continue on. Continue to learn and read and develop and be the best that you can be. This has been absolutely awesome. I have not missed one. I usually had to be running in and out, but I refused to leave my seat because this was so very, very powerful. Now look at the what's it called, the guide. Do we got all those mentors? What Michelle just mentioned? Please take a look at that. You all who want to volunteer, please volunteer and be mentors. You all who need some mentoring, please use it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and may God bless.